The doctors had all said the same thing. She may never speak. For 5 years, the Mafia boss's daughter hadn't said a single word. No cries, no laughter, no dad. Money couldn't fix it. Threats couldn't change it. Even the most feared man in the city was powerless in front of his own child. That morning, he sat across the restaurant table from her, watching her push food around her plate in silence. Then something unexpected happened. A waitress approached. Young, gentle, nervous. She knelt slightly to the child's level and smiled. "Would you like more juice, sweetheart?" The girl froze. Her small hands trembled. Her eyes widened. Then, slowly, she raised her arm, pointed, not at her father, at the waitress, and for the first time in her life, she spoke. "Mama." The restaurant went silent. The waitress dropped the tray. The Mafia boss stood up so fast his chair slammed backward, because that word wasn't just a miracle. It was a question that would tear open a past no one was prepared to face. "Stay with me until the end, because the truth behind why she called that woman Mama will change everything the Mafia boss thought he knew." Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. Vincent Romano wasn't the kind of man you crossed. He was the shadow behind every major construction deal in the city, the whisper that made judges change their minds, the ghost who decided which businesses thrived and which ones burned to the ground. His name alone could clear a room or fill a grave. But none of that power meant anything when he looked at his daughter. Sofia Romano was 5 years old with dark curls that caught the light and eyes that seemed to hold secrets no child should carry. She had been silent since birth, not selectively mute, not shy, completely, utterly silent. The doctors called it unexplained developmental delay. Vincent called it his greatest failure. Every specialist in the country had examined her. Neurologists from Johns Hopkins, speech therapists from Switzerland, even a priest who claimed he could heal the afflicted. Nothing. Sofia would sit through every appointment, every test, every therapy session with the same distant expression, as if she were watching the world through glass. The morning it all changed started like every other. Vincent had decided to take Sofia to lunch at Marcello's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown where he conducted most of his business meetings. It was neutral ground, comfortable, familiar. The staff knew to keep their distance and their mouths shut. He helped Sofia into her booster seat at their usual corner table. The spot gave him a clear view of every entrance and exit, while keeping them tucked away from prying eyes. Sofia stared out the window at the busy street, her small hands folded in her lap. "What would you like today, Principessa?" Vincent asked softly, though he knew she wouldn't answer. She never answered. He had learned to fill the silence with gentle conversation, hoping that somewhere behind those dark eyes, she was listening. The waitress who approached their table was new. Vincent noticed immediately because he noticed everything. She was maybe 23, with auburn hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, and nervous energy that made her hands shake slightly as she carried her notepad. Her name tag read Emma. "Good afternoon," Emma said, her voice warm despite her obvious nerves. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" Vincent ordered his usual espresso and a glass of milk for Sofia, but as Emma turned to leave, something made her pause. She looked down at Sofia, who was still staring out the window, and her expression softened. "You have such beautiful curls," Emma said gently, kneeling down to Sofia's eye level. "My little sister used to have hair just like yours." Vincent tensed. He didn't like strangers talking to Sofia, especially not getting that close. But before he could say anything, Emma continued, "Would you like some juice instead of milk, sweetheart? We have apple or orange." That's when it happened. Sofia's head turned slowly from the window. Her eyes focused on Emma's face with an intensity Vincent had never seen before. Sofia's small hand reached out, trembling, pointing directly at the young waitress. And then, clear as church bells on Sunday morning, Sofia spoke. "Mama." The word hit the restaurant like a physical force. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Silverware clinked against plates as hands froze. Even the kitchen seemed to go quiet. Emma's face went white. The notepad slipped from her fingers and scattered across the floor. She stumbled backward, her chair legs scraping against the tile. Vincent shot to his feet so violently his chair toppled over. His hand instinctively moved toward the inside of his jacket where he kept his gun. His mind was racing, calculating threats, looking for exits, searching for explanations. Because Sophia had never spoken. Not once. Not to him, not to her doctors, not to her nannies. And now her first word, her first sound in 5 years of life, was calling a complete stranger, Mama. Sophia, Vincent said, his voice carefully controlled but dangerous. What did you say? Sophia looked up at him, and for the first time in her life, her eyes were bright and alive. Mama, she repeated, pointing again at Emma. Mama here. Emma was backing toward the kitchen, shaking her head. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't know why I've never seen her before. I just started working here last week. But Vincent was studying Emma's face now, really looking at her. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her jaw, something familiar lurked in her features. Something that made his chest tighten with a recognition he couldn't quite place. What's your last name? Vincent asked, his voice deadly quiet. Martinez, Emma stammered. Emma Martinez. The name meant nothing to him. But Sophia was reaching toward Emma now, making soft sounds he'd never heard her make before. Happy sounds. Like she was trying to communicate something urgent. Vincent's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his lieutenant. Boss, we got a problem at the docks. Need you here now. But Vincent couldn't move. He was trapped in this moment, watching his silent daughter come alive for a stranger, hearing her speak for the first time, and feeling like the ground was shifting beneath his feet. Manager, Vincent called out, never taking his eyes off Emma. I need to speak with the manager, now. A thin man in a cheap suit hurried over, wringing his hands. Mr. Romano, is everything all right? Is there a problem with the service? No problem, Vincent said slowly. I want to know everything about this waitress. When she started, where she came from. Everything. Emma was still standing there, frozen, as if running might make things worse. Sophia was stretching her arms toward her, making those soft, pleading sounds. And Vincent Romano, the most feared man in the city, realized he was about to uncover something that would either save his daughter or destroy everything he thought he knew about his own life. Save his daughter or destroy everything he thought life. The manager scurried away to retrieve Emma's employment file, while Vincent remained standing, his dark eyes locked on the young waitress. Sophia was becoming more animated by the second, reaching toward Emma with desperate little fingers. Please, Emma whispered, her voice breaking. I don't understand what's happening. I swear I've never met your daughter before. But Sophia wasn't letting this go. She climbed down from her booster seat before Vincent could stop her and ran directly to Emma, wrapping her tiny arms around the waitress's legs. The sound that came from Sophia's throat was pure joy, a laugh that Vincent had never heard in 5 years of fatherhood. The manager returned, clutching a manila folder with shaking hands. Her application, Mr. Romano. Everything's in order. Clean background check. No criminal record. She came from a small town upstate. Vincent snatched the file and flipped it open. Emma Martinez, age 23, born in Albany. Previous employment at a diner called Rosie's Place. Emergency contact listed as Maria Martinez, presumably her mother. But as Vincent scanned the personal information, one detail made his blood run cold. Date of birth, March 15th. The exact same day Sophia was born 5 years ago. Where were you born? Vincent demanded, his voice cutting through the restaurant's nervous chatter. Emma looked confused, still trying to gently extract herself from Sophia's embrace. Albany General Hospital. Why does that matter? Vincent's mind was racing. Albany General. He remembered that hospital. 5 years ago, his wife Carmen had been visiting her sister upstate when she went into premature labor. They'd rushed her to Albany General in the middle of a snowstorm. The birth had been chaotic. Emergency procedures, complications that nearly cost them both their lives. "What time were you born?" Vincent pressed, stepping closer. "I don't know exactly," Emma said, her confusion deepening. "My mom always said it was around midnight, March 15th going into March 16th. Sophia was born at 11:57 p.m. on March 15th, 3 minutes before midnight. Vincent's phone buzzed again. Another urgent message from his crew, but he ignored it. Nothing else mattered right now except the impossible coincidence unfolding in front of him. "Your mother," Vincent said slowly. "Where is she now?" Emma's face crumpled. "She died 2 years ago. Cancer. It's just me now." Something twisted in Vincent's chest. Carmen had died in a car accident when Sophia was 6 months old. 2 mothers, both gone. 2 daughters, born minutes apart at the same hospital. And now his silent child was calling this stranger Mama. The pieces were forming a picture Vincent didn't want to see. But Sophia was looking up at Emma with such pure recognition, such desperate love, that he couldn't deny what his instincts were telling him. "I need to make a call," Vincent said abruptly. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Dr. Patricia Wells, the obstetrician who had delivered Sophia. "Dr. Wells, this is Vincent Romano. I need to ask you about the night my daughter was born." There was a long pause on the other end. "Mr. Romano, I'm not sure I should discuss patient confidentiality matters over the phone." "Doctor," Vincent's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I'm standing in a restaurant where my 5-year-old daughter just spoke for the first time in her life. She called a complete stranger Mama. This stranger was born the same night as Sophia, at the same hospital, possibly within minutes of each other. Now you're going to tell me everything that happened that night, or I'm going to come to your office and we'll discuss it in person." Another pause. Then Dr. Wells sighed deeply. "There was a mix-up that night. A terrible snowstorm. The power went out twice. We had multiple emergency deliveries happening simultaneously. It was chaos." Vincent's grip on the phone tightened. "What kind of mix-up?" "The babies were taken to the nursery during the complications with both mothers. When the power came back on, there was confusion about which baby belonged to which family. The night nurse was new, overwhelmed." Vincent felt the world tilting beneath his feet. "Are you telling me that babies might have been switched?" "I'm telling you that it was a very difficult night, Mr. Romano, but we followed all protocols. We checked the identification bracelets before discharging the families. But if those bracelets had been mixed up during the power outage?" Silence on the other end told Vincent everything he needed to know. He ended the call and looked down at Sophia, who was still clinging to Emma. His daughter, the child he'd raised for 5 years. The silent little girl who'd never once called him Papa. She was gazing up at Emma with recognition that went deeper than memory. It was cellular, instinctual. Emma was crying now, overwhelmed by the situation. "I don't understand any of this. Please, can I just go back to work?" "No," Vincent said quietly. "You can't. Because if his suspicions were correct, Emma wasn't just a waitress who'd stumbled into their lives. She was Sophia's biological sister, maybe even her twin. And that meant somewhere out there was another 5-year-old girl who might be Vincent's real daughter." The thought made his chest tighten with a mixture of rage and grief he wasn't prepared to handle. "We're leaving," Vincent announced, scooping Sophia up in his arms. To his amazement, she didn't resist. She reached over his shoulder toward Emma, making soft crying sounds. "Where are we going?" Emma asked, fear creeping into her voice. Vincent looked at her with eyes that had seen too much violence, too much betrayal, but were now filled with something else entirely. Desperate hope. "We're going to find out the truth," he said, "and you're coming with us." Because Vincent Romano was about to discover that the most dangerous enemy he'd ever faced wasn't a rival crime family or federal investigators. It was the possibility that everything he'd believed about his own life was a lie. Lie. The car ride to Vincent's estate was suffocating. Emma sat in the back seat between 2 of Vincent's men, her hands shaking as she stared out the window at the city blurring past. Sophia was in the front passenger seat, turned completely around to watch Emma with those intense dark eyes. Mama, Sophia whispered again, reaching her small hand toward the back seat. Mama, come. Each time Sophia said that word, Vincent's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. 24 hours ago, he would have killed anyone who suggested his daughter wasn't really his. Now he was driving through the gates of his compound, with a waitress who might hold the key to everything. The Romano estate sprawled across 15 acres of manicured grounds, high walls topped with razor wire, guard towers disguised as garden features. To most people, it looked like paradise. To Vincent, it was a fortress protecting the only thing that mattered to him. This is where you live? Emma breathed as they pulled up the circular driveway. Vincent didn't answer. He was already on his phone, barking orders. Get me Dr. Reeves from the genetics lab. Tell him I need DNA testing done tonight. Emergency priority. Inside the mansion, Sophia refused to let go of Emma's hand. She led the confused waitress through rooms filled with priceless art and antique furniture, chattering in her newly discovered voice. Mama, see my room. Mama, see my toys? Vincent watched from the doorway as Sophia showed Emma her playroom. The little girl was more animated than he'd ever seen her. She was pulling toys from shelves, offering them to Emma, laughing when Emma smiled. She's never done this before, Vincent said quietly to his housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, who had raised Sophia since Carmen's death. Never shared her toys. Never wanted to show anyone anything. Mrs. Chen nodded. Her weathered face creased with concern. It's like she's waking up, Mr. Romano. Like she's been sleeping for 5 years and just opened her eyes. Dr. Reeves arrived within the hour. A nervous man in wire-rimmed glasses who specialized in private genetic testing for Vincent's organization. Usually, it was to confirm paternity for inheritance disputes or identify remains. This was different. I need to know if these two are related, Vincent said, gesturing to Sophia and Emma, who were now sitting on the floor building a tower with blocks. I need to know tonight. Sir, standard genetic testing takes at least 48 hours. Dr. Reeves stammered. Vincent's stare could have frozen blood. You'll find a way to make it faster. While they waited for the test results, Vincent made another call. This one to Marcus Chen, his most trusted investigator. If babies had been switched at Albany General, there would be records, witnesses, someone who knew the truth. I want you to find everyone who worked at Albany General Hospital on March 15th, 5 years ago, Vincent instructed. Nurses, doctors, orderlies, cleaning staff, everyone. And I want to know about every baby born that night. Emma was trying to process everything. She sat in Vincent's study, Sophia curled up asleep in her lap, while he worked the phones. The little girl had refused to be separated from her, clinging like Emma was a lifeline. This is insane, Emma whispered. You think we're sisters? That's impossible. My mother would have told me. Vincent looked up from his desk. Your mother died of cancer. What if she never knew? What if she raised you believing you were hers, just like I raised Sophia believing she was mine? But the resemblance, Emma protested. People say Sophia looks like you. People see what they expect to see, Vincent said grimly. But now that I'm really looking at you both together, the similarities are obvious. The eyes, the way you both scrunch your nose when you're thinking, the way you hold your left shoulder slightly higher than your right. Emma unconsciously straightened her posture. That doesn't prove anything. Vincent's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Found something. Nurse who worked that night lives in Queens. Patricia Gonzalez. She's been trying to reach Albany General for years about something that happened during the blackout. Hospital won't return her calls. We're taking a drive, Vincent announced, standing up. There's someone we need to talk to. Patricia Gonzalez lived in a small apartment above a bodega in Queens. She was in her 60s now, retired from nursing. But when she opened her door and saw Vincent Romano standing there with Sophia and Emma, her face went pale. Oh my God, she whispered. I knew this day would come. She let them into her cramped living room, her hands trembling as she made coffee nobody wanted. You were there that night, Vincent said. It wasn't a question. Patricia nodded. tears already forming in her eyes. Worst night of my career. The storm knocked out power twice. We had 4 emergency deliveries happening at once. 2 sets of premature twins, born within minutes of each other. Vincent felt his world shift. Twins. Your wife had complications during delivery, Patricia continued. She was hemorrhaging. We had to take the babies to the nursery immediately while the doctors worked to save her. The other mother, Maria Martinez, she was having similar problems. Emma gasped. That was my mother's name, Maria. Both sets of twins were in the nursery when the second blackout hit, Patricia said, her voice breaking. When the power came back on, the identification bracelets had fallen off. We had 4 newborns, 2 families, and no way to tell who belonged to whom. The room went silent except for the ticking of an old clock on the mantel. What did you do? Vincent asked, though he already knew he didn't want to hear the answer. Dr. Wells made the call, Patricia whispered. She said to match them by size and coloring. Your twins were both dark-haired like you. Maria's were lighter, more like her. So we assumed the dark-haired babies went to your family, and the light-haired ones went to Maria. Vincent looked at Sophia sleeping in Emma's arms, at Emma's auburn hair, at his daughter's dark curls. But we were wrong. I tried to tell Dr. Wells we should do blood tests, but she said it wasn't necessary. The families were being discharged. Your wife was stable. Maria Martinez was stable. Everyone wanted to go home. You said twins, Emma said quietly. What happened to the other babies? Patricia's face crumpled completely. Maria Martinez took home a baby boy, dark-haired like your daughter. And you, Mr. Romano, you took home one of Maria's daughters. Vincent felt like he was falling through space. Where is he? Where is Maria's son? I don't know, Patricia sobbed. I tried to contact the families years later when I realized what we'd done, but Maria had moved. No forwarding address. And your family, well, you weren't exactly approachable. Vincent's mind was reeling. Sophia wasn't his daughter. Sophia was Maria Martinez's daughter. And somewhere out there was a 5-year-old boy who was his biological son, being raised by strangers. But Emma was his daughter, his actual daughter, who'd grown up in poverty while he'd raised her twin sister in luxury, who'd worked as a waitress to survive while Sophia had everything money could buy. The other twin, Vincent said, his voice barely controlled. Emma's twin sister. What happened to her? Patricia looked confused. Your daughter? You have her. Sophia is Emma's twin sister. Vincent stared at the 2 girls. Sophia asleep in Emma's arms. Emma holding her with the natural protectiveness of a mother or a sister. They recognized each other, he realized. After 5 years apart, they still recognized each other. Emma was crying now, looking down at Sophia with new understanding. She's my sister, my twin sister. And you're my daughter, Vincent said quietly. My daughter who grew up without me while I raised your sister. The weight of it crashed over him like a tidal wave. 5 years of loving the wrong child. 5 years of his real daughter struggling alone. 5 years of a little boy who should have been his son growing up somewhere unknown. Vincent Romano had built an empire on knowing things other people didn't, on having information that gave him power. But this information felt like it was destroying him from the inside out. What do we do now? Emma whispered, still holding Sophia. Vincent looked at his daughters, both of them now, and realized the most dangerous war of his life was just beginning, because somewhere out there was a family who had his son, and Vincent Romano always collected what belonged to him. But this time, taking back what was his might mean destroying 2 more families in the process. The next 48 hours would test Vincent Romano in ways that bullets and betrayal never could. He sat in his study at 3 a.m, staring at DNA results that confirmed what his heart already knew. Emma Martinez was his biological daughter. Sophia was her twin sister, but not his blood. Across the hall, both girls slept in Sophia's room. Emma had refused to leave, and Sophia had clung to her sister with desperate fingers. They'd fallen asleep holding hands. 2 pieces of a puzzle that had been separated for 5 years, finally finding their way back together. Vincent's phone rang. Marcus Chen's name flashed on the screen. "I found him," Marcus said without preamble. "The boy, your son." Vincent's grip tightened on the phone. "Where?" "Brooklyn. Family named Rodriguez took him in when Maria Martinez died. She never told them the truth about the hospital mix-up. They think he's their nephew, that Maria was his biological mother. What's his name?" "They call him Miguel Rodriguez. He's 5 years old, attends kindergarten at Sacred Heart Elementary." "Vincent, there's something else you need to know." Vincent waited, though every instinct told him he didn't want to hear what came next. "The Rodriguez family is struggling financially. The father lost his job 6 months ago. They're behind on rent, medical bills piling up. The kid has asthma, needs expensive treatments they can't afford." Vincent closed his eyes. While he'd been raising Sophia in luxury, his biological son had been growing up in poverty, struggling for his next breath. The irony was brutal. "I want surveillance on the family," Vincent ordered. "Careful surveillance. I need to know everything about them. But they can't know we're watching. Not yet." "Boss, what are you planning?" Vincent didn't answer immediately. What was he planning? Take Miguel away from the only family he'd ever known? Destroy their lives the way his own had been destroyed by the truth? Or let his son continue living in poverty while Vincent had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes? "I don't know yet," Vincent admitted, "but I'm going to find out." The next morning brought chaos of a different kind. Emma woke up in Sophia's bed to find her twin sister missing. Panic shot through her as she searched the room, calling Sophia's name. She found them in the kitchen. Sophia was sitting on Vincent's lap while he fed her breakfast, something he'd done every morning for 5 years. But now everything felt different. The man feeding his daughter wasn't her father. The little girl in his arms wasn't his child. "Good morning," Vincent said quietly when Emma appeared in the doorway. His voice carried a weight that hadn't been there yesterday. Sophia looked up and smiled, the expression brighter than any Emma had ever seen from a 5-year-old. "Emma, sit with me." Emma took the chair beside them, studying Vincent's face. The resemblance between them was subtle but unmistakable now that she was looking for it. The shape of their jaw, the way they both tilted their head when thinking. How had no one noticed before? "I've been thinking all night," Vincent said as Sophia played with her cereal, "about what happens next." Emma's stomach clenched. "You're going to take her away from me again, aren't you? Now that you know the truth." "No," Vincent said, the word coming out harder than he intended. "That's not what I'm thinking at all." He set down the spoon and looked at Emma directly. "You're my daughter, my blood, and Sophia is your sister. For 5 years, I raised your twin while you grew up without the family you should have had. I can't undo that damage, but I can make sure it never happens again." Emma felt tears threatening. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you both belong here. With me. With each other." Vincent's voice roughened. "I'm saying I want to be your father, if you'll let me, and I want Sophia to have her sister back." "But the Rodriguez family," Emma whispered. "Your son." Vincent's jaw tightened. "That's more complicated." Before he could explain, Mrs. Chen burst into the kitchen, her usually composed face flushed with panic. "Mr. Romano, turn on the news, Channel 7. Vincent grabbed the remote and flicked on the wall-mounted television. A breaking news banner scrolled across the bottom. "Hospital mix-up scandal. Babies switched at birth." The reporter's voice filled the kitchen. "Sources close to Albany General Hospital confirm that multiple infants may have been accidentally switched during a power outage 5 years ago. One family has already come forward claiming their child was given to the wrong parents." Vincent's blood turned to ice. Who talked? His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw the news. Interesting story about baby switches. Maybe we should meet. I have information you need." The message was signed with a single initial. R. Rodriguez. "They know," Emma breathed, staring at the screen. "Miguel's family knows about the mix-up." Vincent was already moving, his mind shifting into the cold calculation mode that had kept him alive in the underworld for 20 years. "Mrs. Chen, pack bags for Emma and Sophia. We're leaving the city for a few days." "Where are we going?" Emma asked. Somewhere safe while I figure out how to handle this. Vincent was dialing his phone as he spoke. Marcus, I need the jet ready in 2 hours, and I need to know who leaked this story to the press. But even as he made arrangements, Vincent knew running wouldn't solve the fundamental problem. The truth was out now, spreading like wildfire. Soon every news outlet in the country would be covering the story of the Mafia boss, whose daughter wasn't really his daughter. And somewhere in Brooklyn, a little boy named Miguel Rodriguez was about to learn that his entire life was built on a mistake made during a thunderstorm 5 years ago. Sophia tugged on Vincent's sleeve. "Daddy, why is everyone scared?" Vincent knelt down to her level, looking into eyes that were so much like Emma's. It made his chest ache. "We're not scared, Principessa. We're just going on a little trip." "Emma coming too?" Vincent glanced at Emma, who was staring at the television with growing horror as more details emerged. "Yes, Emma's coming too. Because whatever happened next, he wasn't losing either of his daughters again. Even if one of them had never really been his to begin with. Even if claiming them both might start a war, he wasn't sure he could win. The phone rang again. This time, the caller ID made Vincent's blood freeze completely. FBI. Vincent stared at the phone screen, watching the FBI caller ID flash like a death sentence. His finger hovered over the decline button, but he knew avoiding this call would only make things worse. Federal agents didn't just disappear because you ignored them. He answered on the 4th ring. "Romano. Mr. Romano. This is Special Agent Sarah Chen with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I believe you've seen the news this morning." Vincent's eyes flicked to Emma, who was holding Sophia protectively. Both girls were watching him with wide, frightened eyes. "I don't watch the news." "Then let me fill you in. A story broke about babies being switched at Albany General Hospital 5 years ago. Your name has been mentioned in connection with this incident. We'd like to speak with you." Vincent felt the walls closing in. The FBI had been trying to build a case against him for years, and now they had a legitimate reason to dig into his personal life. "I'm not available for interviews. Mr. Romano, this isn't about your business activities. This is about child welfare. We have reports that you may be in possession of a child who isn't legally yours. And that's the story of how one word changed everything. A mafia boss discovered his silent daughter wasn't his blood, but love doesn't require DNA. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into.